Hello, I'm Chris Burns. Welcome to the network, in which we connect with a matrix of newsmakers to get to the core of an issue. And remember, our guests have to answer in 25 seconds or less. Let's take a look at today's topic. The upcoming elections will act as a test for the Italian government's austerity policies. Former EU Commissioner Mario Monti has been leading a technocratic government, pushing through spending cuts, tax rises and labour reforms in a bid to restore trust in the Eurozone's third economy. According to the polls, if Mr Monti joined forces with other parties, he might even win. But with what kind of majority? Pier Luigi Bersani's centre-left Democratic Party could get a fair number of votes. Monti has also been criticised by former Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi, who called him Germany's puppet. Comedian Beppe Grillo and his anti-system five-star movement is the wild card in this vote. Will this election shock the system, or will it help ensure Italy stays on a pro-EU track? Our guests in this edition of the network are, here at the European Parliament, Marco Incerti, Head of Research and Communication at the Centre for European Policy Studies. Also at the Parliament, Adriana Cerretelli, correspondent for the daily business newspaper Il Sole 24 Ore. And from Rome, Domenico Di Masi, Professor of Sociology at the Università della Sapienza. A question for all of you, starting with Marco Incerti. Unemployment in Italy stands at 11%, its highest level in 13 years, 36% for young people. Faced with such austerity policies, should we expect an earthquake in the ballot box?
Possiamo prevedere un terremoto alle urne.
I'm not sure it'll be an earthquake, but we're definitely about to see some change, because it's unlikely Senator Monti will remain at the head of the next government. The Democratic Party is leading in every poll, and by the way, no matter what government comes out of this vote, it will have to stand by its commitments to its EU partners.
Adriana, do you trust the polls?
If nothing unexpected comes up, the centre-left will win and Bersani will probably team up with Monti. The revival of Berlusconi, who was believed to be politically dead, changes the balance of power and introduces bigger uncertainty than Grillo's movement.
Domenico, earthquake or no earthquake?
No, just a shake. The contenders in this election are two comedians and two tragic actors. I think tragedy will win.
Everybody expects Mr Bersani to win on the 24th and 25th of February. But with what margin? Could that lead to a weak government? Marco?
The main problem is the vote for the Senate, especially in key regions like Lombardy and Sicily. There is certainly a risk that the Democratic Party's victory will be narrower than expected. But as my colleagues pointed out, such a scenario would increase the chances of an alliance with Monti.
Adriana said Berlusconi still has a lot of support because he cut taxes. What role will he play? Will he be a protagonist or a saboteur?
I think he could play the role of a senator if he's elected, as I expect him to be.
A saboteur?
A saboteur, I don't know. A senator, definitely. He's opposed to any alliance between centre and left, that's for sure, but I think he can have his say only if he manages to win the Senate, if he gains control of the Senate.
Domenico, what do you think about that?
I think that no matter what role Berlusconi plays, he'll always be a saboteur.
OK, let's talk about Beppe Grillo. Does he really have an electoral base, or is it just a protest vote? What's his impact on the political scene? Is he indirectly helping the right by dividing the left? Marco, what do you think?
According to the polls, Grillo will get about 12.7% of the vote. His role is to capitalize on the frustration frustration of many Italians. There is also another movement that has not drawn much attention, Fare per fermare il declino, headed by a group of economic experts. We'll definitely see an element of frustration against old-style politics.
Adriana, are we up for a lot of frustration?
Grillo's movement, along with Rivoluzione Civile, headed by former prosecutor Ingroia, will score well because people have lost confidence in politicians. Ironically, Monti's government has strengthened the image of the country abroad, helping it regain credibility, but at home, the recession hasn't helped.
Domenico, is Beppe Grillo indirectly helping the centre-right?
He's definitely helping the right because these people don't have a real plan. They only have massive resentment. The left is losing out both to Grillo and to Ingroia. Maybe more to Ingroia than to Grillo.
Other candidates say they want to implement different economic policies to Mr Monti's, but how can this be done without once again destabilising the financial markets? Marco.
That is the main question. Senator Monti managed to put the economy back on a sustainable track. According to experts, there isn't much room for action. A centre-left government will try to stimulate growth, which is a European target, but there is no magic wand to do that.
How much room for manoeuvre will the next government have? Considering Italy's commitments to the European Union, the ECB and the IMF.
Io credo che ci sia veramente pochissimo margine, direi quasi nullo.
I don't think there'll be much room for manoeuvre. I would say none at all if we have to stand by our commitments to Europe. That's why no party should wish for victory, because the next government faces a very difficult task, be it under Bersani or Monti.
Domenico, is Italy ready for radical change, as Mr Monti said when he tried to push through his many reforms?
We seldom see radical change in Italy. I don't think it'll be different this time round. But I do see some room for action. And for this to happen, being an economist is not enough. What's tragic about Italy today is that the country is completely at the mercy of economists. And economists care for all but society.
Last question. Let's try to keep it short. All the candidates are over the age of 60. Shouldn't Italy try to rejuvenate its political class? Marco.
Of course it should, but unfortunately this hasn't happened so far. And that is part of the reason why we can't completely trust Monti's proposals. His partners in this election, the parties he has chosen to team up with, are led by politicians who have been in Parliament since the 80s. It's difficult to imagine any radical reform with such people.
Adriana, briefly.
I totally agree. Our country is an old country with old politicians. That's why it's so difficult to make real reforms.
Okay, Domenico.
When I was 30, I used to think that 30 was the best age. At 40, I thought 40 was better. At 50, I realized that people that age were the salt of the earth. At 60, I thought without people my age, you're going nowhere. And now at 74, I won't say anything against old people.
Thank you, Domenico. We're out of time. I want to thank our guests Marco Incerti, Adriana Ceratelli, and Domenico De Masi. I'm Chris Burns. See you next time, and thanks for watching The Network.